So today from Motorhome Depot we've got a Swift Compact C205, a very pretty little 6 metre compact coach built. Just underneath the seating area in the front you've got your vehicle toolkit and the engine battery under the floor. Bonnet release is up on the end of the dashboard. When we move round to the front, centrally located bonnet release. Over on the extreme left hand side you have your screen wash, and then alongside that your brake fluid, radiator reservoirs and power steering fluids. Oil filler on the centre of the block, and then the oil dipstick just in front. Should you ever need to jump start the vehicle, there's a little flip up cap just here. The positive can be attached onto the blade and the negative can go over here onto that bolt, and you can jump start the vehicle. Moving down the driver's side of the vehicle, you've got your water cap, so key in, turn the cap, and then you can then fill up with water. There's an internal gauge to tell you how it's getting on. And then underneath the vehicle, there are drain taps for the fresh water and the wastewater. They are internally controlled via a solenoid valve. A little bit further on, and you have your toilet cassette. Make sure that the blade on the toilet bowl is shut inside, and then you can lift up on the orange T lever at the base and slide the whole body of the cassette out. Grey cap off completely, stand over your sluice and press in the orange button at the top. That allows airflow to go into the top and should allow the waste then to come out of the base. Before you load it back in, there's a measuring cup inside the top of the cap. Up to a capful of the green chemical up here for the Highlands, mixed with about 2 litres of water. You can use sachets or pods instead, and then you can slide the whole body of the cassette back in and it should lock firmly back into position, ready for use. Just above the wheel arch you have the exhaust valve for the trim blown air heating system. We've got it running on gas at the moment, so there's a little bit of a condensation plume just below. One of 2 garage doors. This one on this side allows access in underneath to the drain valve for the water heater. So it's a little yellow tick valve in the horizontal position. It's closed. In the upright position, it allows you to spread it out for winter storage. On the back of the van, you've got a wind down fuel bike rack. So you use the handle to do the initial release. So when you pull the deck down, and then continue winding with the handle, it slackens off the rollers, a little bit of weight because we've got no weight on it, and then eventually you'll get to a counteraction where the rollers will start to come down. Load your bikes on when it gets to an appropriate height, and then you can then wind the system back up accordingly. Mains is connected to the side of the van. Always recommend that you connect to the side of the van before you connect up to your sight post. Ventilation for the fridge, and then just next to that you've got your gas locker. So when you open up the gas locker, you can see the brass tap on top, which you open and close to allow the gas flow to come through. This is fitted with a crash sensor, however, so if this little yellow tab pops out, it'll need to be reset. When you first come into the van, up above your head you have the Swift control panel. Press on the panel and you'll get a series of characters illuminated across. It also gives you an indication as to the internal and external temperatures, date, time, condition of batteries, leisure battery and vehicle battery. So each character has its own ident. By illuminating those switches, then you're activating those devices. So the water pump can be turned on from here, the outside awning light and the interior lighting, and you can control the brightness of those lights as well because they're LED, so you can increase or decrease the brightness on those dimmer zones. These are for the ceiling lights around the top of the airline lockers. Go back to your home button. When you select the power button, then you'll see the power display within the vehicle. There's no solar panel fitted on this one, so there's no solar array reading, merely showing you at the moment the condition of the leisure battery and the vehicle battery. We've chosen the vehicle battery at the moment to get a charge, but if I select that battery, you'll see then that the supply jumps over to the leisure battery, and it's the leisure battery that receives a charge instead. When you move on to the water button, it'll give you the condition of your fresh water and your wastewater. All right. You have the option of using tank heaters. You can use level alerts to indicate when levels are low, and also for turning on frost heaters because both tanks are underslung. To empty the wastewater and freshwater tank, you can select on whichever tank you want to do and confirm, and you'll hear a solenoid open up, and that will allow that water to drain out. When we move to the heating system, this is also linked to the trimmer control panel, but it's far easier and far more efficient to use it in this way. You have a manual mode, a timer mode, the option potentially to use it with the app. However, I would recommend that you do it this way. This is your temperature control. You can increase and decrease the temperature within the van. You'll see a C1 symbol occasionally appear on the opposite panel as those actions are being completed by this panel and not by itself. And given the current interior temperature of the vehicle, shortly you'll feel the heat system kick in. Your energy supply is dictated by this icon that's shown here, and there are different settings. So you have a single and a double electric setting. These indicate a 900 or 1800 watt electric element. There is a gas only option, and then a combination of the lower and the higher electric element, including the gas for the output. And this is for both the water heating and for the room heating. Won't make the vehicle get any hotter than what's been pre-selected, but it might bring things up to temperature more quickly. With the hot water supply, assuming that you've already primed the water system, so i.e. you've got cold water continuously flowing from the hot taps in the bathroom, the shower and on the kitchen unit, you are then able to use the hot water heating system. Regardless of the energy supply, you have two choices. You can select it into an eco mode where it will heat the water up to around about 40 degrees centigrade, or you can put it into a hot mode and it will bring the water up to 60 degrees. You can cancel out that request by turning it back off again, and you don't have to have the heating on in order to use the water heating. When we select the fridge option, it's giving you the option of using this control panel over the fascia panel on the front of the appliance. This one number here can be increased to increase the performance within the fridge. The higher the number, potentially the colder the fridge will become. Auto mode, it will internally self-select what it thinks is the strongest supply available. So currently we're plugged in onto the main supply, so that's where it's going to draw its energy from. This is more likely characteristically going to be displayed on the front of the fridge rather than being shown up here. You can, however, override those automatic modes, and you can exclusively select the gas supply or the main supply whilst the vehicle is stationary and whilst those options are available. The 12 volt mode will only come into play, and you will see that there is a warning being shown there at the moment. The 12 volt will only come into play when the vehicle is in motion, because it's taking a direct feed from the alternator to maintain the temperature within the fridge. So this is not a 12 volt compressor fridge, it is a 12 volt supply to the element for it to change over. To turn off the supply to the appliance, to shut the system down when you finish using it, press the off button and it will shut the system down and turn off the fridge. When you lift up the mattress in the back, you will see the Sargent control panel. In here you have your 12 volt fuses for the internal operation of the van. So all of these relate to the menu, which is over on the other side. Should a fuse fail, so I'm going to illustrate this by removing one of the fuses, then you'll get an indicator light telling you that there is a problem, that there is an issue. When we replace that fuse, obviously we get no red light and we return back to the green status. Adjacent to that, you have your mains control board. So these are RCDs, similar to the kind of system that you would have within your home supply. All of these switches are tipped away from you at the moment, which indicates that the main supply is on and functioning. You can isolate individual switches if you require to do so. You can also test the mains control system as well. However, once you've plugged into the main supply, you will want these switches on. Above that, you have two illuminated switches. The green one is your battery charger, so all the time now that we are plugged into the main supply, there is a trickle charge going to the battery that you've selected. If you want any aspect of the water heating or room heating system to work from the mains, then you will need to have that selected as well. From a maintenance point of view, possibly in an emergency, you can shut down the entire control panel by deselecting this switch. It raises the switch up, it turns off all of the 12-volt supply in the back. However, if you do that, there is also no longer a relationship between the engine battery and the leisure battery when you are traveling, which means there is no feed, there is no means of anything being charged up whilst the vehicle is in motion. We've already turned the gas supply on outside. If you go into the cabinet underneath the cooker, you will see some individual isolator taps for the individual appliances. They're color coded and menued to a label that's adjacent to it. At the moment, they're all in the on position, which is allowing gas supply to go through to the individual appliances. By rotating them through 90 degrees, you can isolate individual supplies if that's required. With the toilet system, it's a swivel bowl toilet. On the front of the toilet bowl, you have a grey lever. You need to slide that lever over in order to engage the blade inside, so it opens. That allows your waste to go through and close over afterwards. At the back, behind the toilet seat, there is a flush button. When that's depressed, water is drawn from your main onboard fresh water tank around the inside of the bowl. When the cassette is approaching full, you'll get an indicator light coming on telling you that it's needed to be emptied.